What's up, everyone? I'm your host, Vik Chokshi, and welcome to today's edition of Chok Talk, brought to you by Sports Intel. Today's guest is my guy, Rob Cressy. Rob and I actually first started interacting on Twitter a while ago, and then, we've kept in touch, and now he hosts the Sharp 600 pod over at Covers. He's doing some great things over there, so make sure you guys give him a follow. So let's kick this off. Rob, how you doing today, my man?
Doing absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for having me.
It's always a pleasure interacting with you, man. I love your positivity posts on LinkedIn every day. Those literally help start off my day. So I always appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you very much for that. I learned, let's call it 7 years ago, that negativity was not going to serve me and help me get to where I want to go. So because of that, I've become the leader of Team Good Vibes, and I'm positivity all the time.
I love it, man. So you have a follower for life here. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that like it as well. So let's kick this thing off, man. I wanted to really talk to you about a few things. We'll get to some games in a moment, but every week I like to ask my guests really just how they got into the gambling industry. And so quick story, long story, whatever you feel like sharing with us, definitely I'll open up the floor to you.
For me, it's actually quite simple, yet a circuitous route to get here. My dream has always been to work in sports and be creative. And unfortunately, that was not the path that my life took. I graduated from Miami of Ohio with a degree in marketing, and that became a fast track to inside sales. I got into digital advertising sales, which I was extremely successful at, but didn't love. I didn't wake up every day looking forward to slinging banner ads and text links. And like so many people out there, I would just sit there and I would daydream about the day where I could just create a sports blog and make that my life. And I knew I was a great creator. And it got to the point where even though I was good at my job, I was spending 50% of my time creating my own sports blogs and sports posts, and 50% of the time doing the actual job that I was supposed to. And finally, I got to a point where I said I'd regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen. And I knew I belonged. I knew the content I could create is as good or better than anybody else that was out there. I knew I had a unique perspective. So 7 years ago, I cut the cord, quit my job, and went all in and started Bacon Sports, originally as a sports comedy blog where we created original podcast videos, social media marketing, and live streams. And in the process of doing that, sports betting is something that has always been part of my DNA. I'm someone who has played fantasy sports since before there was even stats to track. We'd use the newspaper. And then it was just a natural evolution, probably at the end of my college, doing more sports betting, obviously on the smaller side because I had no money. But it's something that I always loved, the juice and the action of sports betting in fantasy. So for me, sports betting and fantasy has been part of who I am for the last 20 plus years.
Nice. I love it, man. So let me ask you a question. Looking back on it now, it's been 7 years. Are you happy that you dove in, all in?
It's the greatest thing I have ever done in my life, and I would highly recommend it for anyone because you wake up with a different bounce in your step. And you even mentioned at the top, Rob, I love your positivity. So I know what the other life was like for me. I was not driven like this. I was successful and I was good, but I wake up early. I'm excited to do everything I'm excited for my life. I'm excited to connect with you. I'm excited to talk and do this podcast. And certainly I'm excited to talk about sports betting. And it has really allowed me to become great at what I do because I don't think everyone realizes how much I value the opportunities that I get, because it is so difficult to land opportunities to work in sports and to create in sports. So for me, because this is my dream, I show up every day and I'm a master professional because I do not want to squander one single opportunity, because I know the blessing that it is to be able to wake up and talk about sports betting for a living, among other things.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And that's just great advice in general, I feel, for anybody, whether it's life advice or working in sports. So I definitely am inspired by you. And like I talked to you a little bit offline, like I was telling you, I love some of the webinars and things that you do. And the one about starting a podcast is one of the reasons that I started my own podcast. So I was definitely inspired by you in real life. So again, I appreciate you, and let's talk some football, man. This is what we're here to do. There are 4 games that really kind of stick out to me that I would love to get your insight on. I love, when I was talking to you offline a little bit and when I was on your podcast, just the process that you put into some of these things. So I want to get your mindset behind these 4 games and see if you like a side. So we're in Chicago. We'll start with the Bears game, of course, today. We got Tampa Bay coming to town. Tom Brady, one of the best to ever do it, against the Bears, who were kind of coming off a lackluster start last weekend. So wanted to get your thoughts on the game. Do you like a bet or side or a prop or anything on tonight's game?
So here's my mindset around this game. 1, the line has continued to creep towards the Bears. I want to say maybe it opened 5.5. Now it's down to 3.5. So you've got that. I do like that the Bears are coming off a loss, because my mindset is traditionally, when a team does bad, bet them the following week. When a team has a blowout, fade them, because it's a contrarian thinking. The next thing is the Bucs. They are banged up. Mike Evans looks like a game-time decision. Scotty Miller, while playing, he's got a few different injuries. No Chris Godwin. And the Bucs are a team that I identified at the beginning of the year as a team that I wanted to fade. And the reason for that was continuity or lack thereof, that they're still learning how to do these things. And it's very easy to fall in love with the shiny object syndrome that is Tom Brady. For me in this game, what I would really be looking for is probably on the live betting side of things, because we saw some of the value in the Bears go away. That overwhelmingly, I think the sentiment that I'm hearing is you want to be on the Bears. It's just difficult when you could have had a significantly better number. So let's say Tampa goes up 7-0 in this game. Boom, there's your opportunity to maybe get a little bit of value on the Bears. So for me, I think that's the perspective that I would take in how I'm going to play that game.
No, that's how I see it as well. I actually grabbed the Bears +6 for a lot of the reasons that you said right when it came out. So like Sunday night, I saw the line out there. I know that they were banged up. I didn't really like what I saw from Tampa Bay last weekend, and I knew the Bears were coming off of a loss. But the things that just scare me as a Bears fan, we saw the Colts defense in the Bears backfield all day last week, and statistically speaking, this Bucs D is up there, right? They're I think the second best defense DVOA, and they're actually better against the run than the Colts are. So it'll be interesting to watch. I do think it's going to be a field goal game either way on a short week. So hopefully the Bears pull it out. I am rooting for the +6 and for them to win. So we'll see. But I like your philosophy there, waiting for the first score. Let me ask you on the flip side. Say the Bears score early and you're getting Tampa Bay with some points. Is that something that you would consider, or are you just circling the Bears and waiting for a good line?
Well, I think last week was a great example, because Tampa went down double digits to the Chargers, and I had the Chargers +7.5, so I did not take advantage of it. But last week we saw 3 instances in which a favorite became a double-digit dog, or a favorite became an underdog. So we had the Saints, who went down double digits to the Lions, Tampa go down double digits to the Chargers, and then Arizona go down double digits to Carolina. 2 of the 3 of those teams came back and won, and you could have gotten all 3 of those teams in plus money. So for me, I think I'm probably staying away from Tampa unless they get down double digits, because if all of a sudden they go from what would have been where you got it at a 6-point favorite to, hey, what if you can get Tampa +3.5? While I mentioned I'm not in love with the team, I do understand value in their opportunity to come back.
Yeah, I remember you actually tweeted out the Saints one. And that was a great call when I was following you on Sunday. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of really good opportunities. I think this year more than others, the good quarterbacks and good teams are starting off a little slow and coming back, and you're definitely getting value on those games. And I know you talked about on your last pod how you identify some games like that and like to kind of live bet a lot. So that's a great tip for a lot of people that are out there that are just kind of getting in the game as well. Like if you miss on a number, don't buy. Like I have a buddy that's just started gambling, of course, because all these promotions are great, right? Like he got $250 at Rivers for just signing up, never bet in his life. He's looking at the Bears. He texted me this morning, goes, it's 3.5. I missed the 5.5 or 6. I'm just going to buy the points. And I was like, do not do that. It's not going to work long term. Say you go 2-1 doing this thing, you're actually going to be in the red, right? So again, just waiting for live opportunities. I think that's where you can really kind of get those opportunities back where you miss some of those points and you're able to get the line that you liked. So great call on the Bears game. Let's shift a little bit to a game that I really liked when it first came out. Now, because of COVID, I don't really know what's going on, but the Las Vegas at Kansas City Chiefs game, the line is 13 at a lot of places, but I've seen it bounce everywhere. I liked the Raiders initially when the game first came out. Now I think Waller might have COVID. Some Vegas guys have tested positive. I don't really know what's going to go on there. We all saw the picture of Patrick Mahomes and Gilmore right after last weekend. So, it's a lot of little wild cards, but do you have an initial lean or thoughts on this game?
Number one, I am not going to be someone who rolls in being like, who I'm betting against this week? The Chiefs. Yeah. That, my friend, I like getting comfortable being uncomfortable, but not that uncomfortable. So then you start to look, you're like, all right, well, I don't want to bet against the Chiefs. Once again, maybe there's an opportunity the Raiders go up 7-0 because the Chiefs are the team that last year proved to me during the playoffs that live betting is my thing, because we saw them go down double digits in every single game, and there's such a quick strike offense right there. The Raiders are a team that I don't trust, and I've mentioned this multiple times on my podcast. They're very much a shiny object because of John Gruden. Am I in love with Derek Carr? No. Derek Carr is just vanilla. He's like pleated khakis, where even if he throws for 300 yards and a touchdown, it's like, do you really feel that Derek Carr is doing a ton? And I know he doesn't turn the ball over. This is a division game. That's another thing. And I think in previous years, I may have a different take than I would right now, because traditionally I like dogs in division games. Why? They're more familiar with each other. So you can say, boom, I'm getting 13.5 points. That's a ton. They're traditionally going to play them a little bit closer, but I'm not someone who's willing to be fading the Chiefs right now. So for me, this would be a pass at the moment, or I would potentially look at a total. And right now overs are flying, and I'm not about to be someone who takes an under in a Chiefs game.
No, not at all. No, you bring up some great points. I was looking at the Raiders for a few reasons. One, because Kansas City has the Buffalo Bills next week. So I feel like it's a little bit of a look ahead spot. Like you said, division game, 13.5 to 14 points. John Gruden's done pretty well against Andy Reid. He's 5-4 ATS lifetime. And just, I feel like the Raiders have just enough offense to have like a backdoor opportunity. And the Chiefs are kind of starting off a little slow, like you said. So it'll be interesting. I'll watch it. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to play it right now. I'm watching all the COVID stuff, and who knows what's going to happen to the line. But that was just a game that I was, had a little bit of an eye on. There is a game that I really, really would love to pick your brain, because I've seen some really smart gamblers on both sides of this game, and it's the Colts at the Browns. And so the line's bouncing around. 2.5 is kind of what I'm seeing across the board right now, but I would love to just get your take. We saw how good the Colts look last weekend. There is a chance Leonard, their best defensive player, got hurt and might be out this weekend. So just something to keep in mind for everyone. But what are your thoughts when you're looking at that game or thinking about it?
Well, the first thing that comes into my mind every single time I bet is, do you really want to be betting on the Cleveland Browns? Yes, I am from Pittsburgh and I'm a Steelers fan, but at the same time, I am a lifelong bettor. And I know that traditionally, if you had bet the Cleveland Browns all the time, probably not going to be the best thing. And let's remove that out and say, all right, the Cleveland Browns right now, are they an arrow up or an arrow down? And right now, the Cleveland Browns arrow could not be higher. Odell Beckham Jr., he is back to being the best player in the world. They just put up 40 points on the Cowboys. They're running for a bajillion yards a game. They're 3-1. The Cleveland Browns are back. If there's anything that we know about sports betting, irregardless of the team, like I mentioned, when a team's arrow is so far up, the most logical thing that I'm going to want to do is fade them. But let's look over to the Colts side of things, because while their defense has been incredible, I've not trusted them because of their offense or a lack thereof. And Phillip Rivers, while good, is mistake prone. It's not an explosive offense. While I like Jonathan Taylor and they have a good offensive line, there's just something in my spider sense that says I'm not completely believing in the Colts. It doesn't mean that I'm fading them, but I look at last week's game against the Bears. They win, 19-11, and you're like, well, what do we really put that in? Is that a good win? Because 19 points isn't really doing a ton with me. T.Y. Hilton is no longer a thing. As somebody who owns him on my fantasy team, he's like a 3 or 4 catch for 40 yards guy, which all of a sudden you're like, well, there's no explosiveness out of the receiving game. They're dinged up all over the place on the receiver side. Tight ends, Mo Alley Cox is now the thing, but here comes Jack Doyle, who is in and out of the lineup all the time. So with this number being so small in my sort of wanting to fade an upper Browns, but not believing in the Colts, I would have a pass on this, or I would watch the game to see what are you noticing, because I think the Browns are a more explosive offense. But look at this. What if the Browns got up in this game? Do you feel confident that the Colts are going to come back? And then conversely, if the Colts were going to get up early, do you feel more confident that the Browns would come back? And strangely, I feel like the Browns offense, which we've always thought this, has the opportunity to strike back quicker than the Colts would.
No, those are all great points. I agree with you 100% on the Colts offense. Their D looked amazing, but the offense had so many short fields last week, and they weren't able to get touchdowns, right? The Bears were able to hold. Granted, the Bears are a good defense, but still. And same thing with Rivers, like you said. He got away with a few. That Mac dropped a wide open interception. There were a couple other turnovers waiting to happen there. So, it's only a matter of time. And that's why I can't back the Colts. The other thing I'm really scared about is just Leonard and Nelson both got hurt. They're two best players, in my opinion, on both sides of the football at the end of that game. And so I'm kind of waiting to see how this plays out. It might be a game like you said. I think with the Bears playing today, Sunday is going to be fun because it's going to be a red zone day for me where I have no stress, no fandom. I can literally just watch games and then get on some live betting opportunities. So this is one I'm going to be looking out for as well. Now, two more games I have.
Quick little nugget for you, Vic. I think one thing that is a key to being a successful bettor, and I'm someone who's an action junkie, so I would love to have action all around the board, is sometimes it is the bets that you do not make that are just as successful for you as the ones that you do. Because the number of times a game like this where you're like, man, I can really see it both ways. Well, the goal of sports betting for you and I isn't exactly just to say, well, I'm just going to pick the 50-50 coin flip because that's what I see right here. I'm not particularly seeing value one way or another. Instead, I would prefer to have a game, like even if we use that Raiders-Chiefs game as an example, you talked about the back door being open for the Raiders. 13.5 points is a ton. Now, all of a sudden, I can see value a little bit better in that game than I can with this. It's a coin flip. So be very disciplined about not just being like, you know what, I think this team is going to win, because I think the name of the game becomes where can you find value, not how are you picking winners.
100%. That's great advice. It took me a very long time to learn that lesson, man. A lot of lost money, right? Anything that's on at any time, literally, I would have some money on. That's just the old me. And no, that's great advice. And it's taken me a really long time. So again, that's where I think the live betting opportunities has really kind of changed my just mindset when it comes to gambling, like yours, in a way where I don't have to now get in on a game early, no matter what, because it's on TV. You're going to get different opportunities even throughout this game, like you said, where we can analyze what's going on and then see if there's some value on either side. So no, great advice there. Let's jump in. I got two more games. This is one I want to pick your brain because you're from Pittsburgh, you're Steelers. The Eagles versus Steelers. Are the Eagles back? They had a desperate game on Monday Night Football, and they came through at the end. But we all know how banged up the Niners were, right? On the flip side, I feel like Pittsburgh's looked really, really good, but they've also played a little bit of a weak schedule, in my opinion, so far. That's not taking anything away from them. Every win in the NFL is important, right? That's why I hate sometimes when people are like, oh, well, the Bears are 3-0, they should be 0-3. But hey, every game counts, especially this year. 7 teams get in, right? So, But let's go back to the Steelers game a little bit. The line is pretty much set at 7 right now. What are your thoughts? Are you betting the game? Is there a side, a bet, or prop, anything that you like?
Are the Eagles back? I'm not about to say that. That was a desperation game against a Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard combo. So, wow, you said you're right. A win is a win, and they desperately needed it. And the way that you build momentum is one win at a time. I think the biggest challenge in backing the Eagles in general is they're just so dinged up. Like, who in the world are they throwing to? Like, Greg Ward, converted quarterback, is who they're throwing to. And I think the bigger issue is actually the offensive line issues. Just, we know in football traditionally, and it's unsexy, but you win in the trenches. If you have a bad offensive line, there's less time for the quarterback. There's fewer holes, and it's just harder to find the wide receivers who, oh, by the way, aren't very good. But, of course, we're looking at a key number here, 7. And there's one part of me that also likes to say, remember what our preseason expectations for a team was. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to always hold on to them, but we're also in a very quick to judgment society right now. So there's a part of me that has some teams in the back of my head, and I think Philly, as gross as it was to bet on them 2 weeks ago, and when they tied the Bengals, it's like, it's been disgusting to be on the Philadelphia side so far. But then you take a team like the Minnesota Vikings, where you're like, man, they've been terrible as well. But let's look at what our preseason expectations for both of those teams were. Significantly different than what we're seeing right now. So I'm a big believer in regression to the mean. Hey, things are going to eventually level out, but it's going to be kind of tough for seeing that in the Eagles. On the Steelers side of things, I've been very happy with what I've seen out of them so far. Defensively, they're elite. It'll be the best unit on the field. Offensively, they've been very, very good. From a wide receiver standpoint, they are phenomenal. Juju, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool coming in here and there, James Washington. Running back, James Conner is good when healthy. Right now, he is healthy coming into this game. They have a nice stable of running backs there. But the thing about the Steelers I have not liked this year has been stupid mistakes. When the Steelers are favored by 7 points, or they're supposed to beat a team, and I think about the Giants game or some of the earlier games, you're like, well, how do they not win? You know how they don't win? When you fumble the opening punt and the Giants recovered on the 10-yard line. You're like, what in the world is going on? And penalties and stupid turnovers. Benny Snell fumbles on the 50-yard line after getting a turnover. So there's been an element of mistakes that the Steelers have had this year that they've been fortunate enough to win, and I like what I've seen, but they need to improve those. And I think one thing that does concern me is the lack of momentum, because they were 3-0. I do think the win over the Texans is a good one, despite the fact that they're 0-4. The Texans can win that game because they just played a murderer's row of teams. Once again, the Texans were a potential playoff team. So I would be more concerned about the rust in the first quarter or the first half out of a Steelers team that was rolling in good, but now they've had some uncertainty because they had an unexpected bye week, and you'd be like, whoa, shouldn't they want a bye week? Not necessarily, because things were humming before that.
Yeah, no, those are great points. Is there a bet or anything that you like, a side, a total, a prop, or anything on this game, or are you just going to kind of pass or watch it?
So I think what I would be looking at would be in the first half of this game, and does this start out slower? So I don't have what the total is right now, and not that I want to be throwing out unders when overs are flying off the board one way or another, but I think the thing that I would be looking at or paying attention to in this game is a first half under of, hey, do the Steelers start a little bit slower, or is there an opportunity to get on Pittsburgh in some way where, hey, what if they got down? Or because the Steelers have been down slightly at times in some of these games where, oh, boom, like the Giants game, they were down. Texans game, they were down too, where boom, immediately they come back. So that's what I would be looking at is, can you get some opportunities if Pittsburgh starts slow, or can you bet on the game starting slower because of the layoff?
No, so the total is down to 44. It started at 46, and then the first half total is down to 22.5 from 23. So You might be right. There's some money coming down on the under as well, man. Some sharp money. So that will be something to keep an eye on. The public's on the over, and the money, a lot of money, 90% of the money is on the under. So just something to keep an eye on, especially if you like that side.
Well, if 90% of the money is on the under, that is a gigantic red flag for me, because there is something called the 80-20 rule. When 80% or more of the action is on one side, I automatically want to be on the other one. So maybe that is something where, all right, seeing this number going down, that is actually a good thing if we're going to play the 80-20 rule. It would also be an opportunity for you in game to look and see where that line changes. What if it's 0-0 after the first? Boom, here's our opportunity to take the over. Or if you decide, like we talked about, maybe it's just the second half where they have a little bit more scoring. So maybe looking at that second half over, because quite frankly, I don't like the Eagles in this matchup from an offensive standpoint. We know the Steelers' strength is defense. So where are the Eagles going to score?
Yep. No, something to keep an eye on for sure. The last game I had, you briefly brought up Minnesota a little bit, and I'll give you a quick, if you can give me a quick little thought on Minnesota-Seattle, because we are getting, the look-ahead line from before the season, like you said, and you pointed out on teams like Minnesota, teams like Philadelphia, it was like 4.5, and now it's up to 7, right? So is there anything that you like in that game?
What I do like is that the number is at 7, a full touchdown. What I don't like betting against the Chiefs, is betting against Russell Wilson, who I believe for his career is something like 57% against the spread. So he's the other version of the Patriots, where you don't make money betting against the Patriots. Well, right now you don't make money betting against Russell Wilson. That being said, the arrow on the Seahawks is like through the roof at the moment. Like right now, I believe they are the hottest, most perceived team out there. The Vikings, I want to back them in general, and getting 7. Hey, is there an opportunity for us to get a little bit more? This is a game where I will very much have my eye on because of the number, and I'm looking to be on the Vikings more moving forward. But once again, and I'm sorry to not be able to give I specifically like this, but as we're seeing, there's so many instances where you don't want to bet against the Chiefs. You don't want to be betting against the Seahawks, where situationally the pregame line does not have as much value as once that game starts and we learn something where one team goes up or down. Because imagine if the Vikings go up in this game 7-0. Would you feel a little bit better if you have the Seahawks at -5 as opposed to -7? I could see myself being on either or both sides of this game.
So I am exactly on the same boat as you. I have this game circled as a game that I'm going to try to target in live betting, depending on who scores first, because I think there's value on either side. If I can get Minnesota +10 off an early Russell Wilson drive, or if I can get the Seahawks like 4 or better, I'm going to be taking either way, and I might try to take both sides if I can. So, and then to your second point, I learned the hard way, man. I lost some money betting against Russell Wilson last week. I told you that I liked the Miami Dolphins in that game, and man, they had so many chances and they settled for field goals, and you can't do that against Russell Wilson, man. So I learned the hard way last week, and that's, again, why I'm not betting this game before it starts, but why I'm watching it just before and during kickoff. I'm going to see where the line moves, and then I'm going to try to get value on either side. So the last game I'm going to throw out to you before we get your pick of the week is a bet that I really like. It's the Chargers at the Saints. And so before I tell you what I like, I want to just pick your mind on that game. It's 7. You see everything from 7.5 to 6.5 right now in that game. Last I saw it's gone up a little bit because Mike Thomas is kind of slating, circling this game to come back. So any thoughts on this game so far?
Yeah, I'm going to look at the total, and there's a reason for this. The Saints are one of 3 teams to go 4-0 to the over on the season. We're seeing points all over the place. My big concern in this game would be, in terms of getting the points to the Chargers, backing a rookie quarterback in prime time against a team that is built on continuity and foundation. You know what they're doing. I think there's been a lot of negativity surrounding the decline of Drew Brees. And while I get that he is not throwing the ball as far downfield as we all may like. There is still an element of the Saints are trucking along. Alvin Kamara is good. So for me, I think that the number that I was seeing is 51.5. I would continue the trend on the over side of things since the Saints have been an over team, and especially if they get Michael Thomas back, I would be looking at the over. But if you wanted the over, I would play it sooner versus later, because come when that game happens, guess what everyone's going to want? Oh, it's prime time. Saints, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. Of course, you're going to want to take the over. So there's going to be some value that's going to be lost in between now and then.
Yeah, I like the over, and that's why I actually like the Chargers. It's because of their offense. I've been impressed with them, and the Chargers haven't lost by more than 7 points the last 14 games. So I thought that's a great stat. Again, I don't just go off of stats or trends, but I've seen them play this year, and they've impressed me. I know that they have Herbert's look good. They have the offense to be able to at least be neck and neck or come back for a backdoor, and I'm getting 7.5, so I like the hook. That's what I kind of grabbed it at, and they've impressed me a little bit. And watching them against Tom Brady in the Bucs last week, yes, the Bucs have a lot of flaws, as you pointed out, but again, just to be there, the last couple of weeks, they've looked good to me. Same thing with the Chiefs game. They were there. They had every opportunity there as well. So this is a team that I'm backing. So it's one of my favorite picks of the week. I grabbed them at 7.5. So let's wrap this up. Before we go, I always like to get my guest's favorite bet. It could be literally whatever you like, a prop, a total, a side. So I'll open up the floor to you, man. Is there a bet that you're loving this week that you've already taken?
There is, because what we're going to do is we are going to bet against crappy teams, and we're going to do this as a teaser. So the Cardinals right now, -7, taking on the Jets. Let's tease that bad boy down to -1. And we also have the Rams, I saw at -7, or I was able to get it -7. Let's drop that down to -1. I believe they are taking on Washington, another team that has a lot of flux. Both of those games being at 7, not the biggest fan of exactly laying a touchdown on the road. But if we drop both of those to -1, which is essentially a money line bet, you can get that at -120. So give me a Cardinals -1, Rams -1 teaser.
I love it, man. I was looking at the Cards as a teaser play this weekend because I had that circled, especially with Darnold out and just how they look, man. If they can't beat the Broncos on a short week against a UDFA quarterback, it's not happening against Murray, right? In my opinion. And so, no, I love that side. And the Rams scared me a little bit last weekend. They were on my survivor pick, but it definitely seems like a nice little spot for them as well. So that's about it for this week of Chalk Talk. I really appreciate your time, Rob. Rob, let everyone know where they can follow you on Twitter or IG.
You can hit me up at Rob Cressy on all social media platforms, or check out baconsports.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Rob. Good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, my friend.
Take care.